for better things. How many points might they need to survive? Well, this has been a changing picture over the last 20 years of Premier League football. This is a rolling 5-season average, showing us the average points that you needed to stay up. And it's gone from, well, 37 almost, down most recently to a rolling average of just under 31. So I think a lot of that is probably down to some underperforming promoted sides who've gone back down without a whimper, but it's been a very different story this time round. So what might it be this time? So recently it's been well below a point a game, but a point a game is exactly what West Ham United have right now, but that is not guaranteed to keep them safe this time. Dean, what do you think should be the target, the number that is going to keep you from the trapdoor this time round?
I think Leeds have it already.
39?
Yeah, I do. I felt that win for Leeds against Wolves was enough to keep them safe. I might be proved wrong, but I just think it's such a tough task with so few games left for Tottenham to gather that amount of points when there's that much pressure.
Well, they could still get 46 points, Spurs. They could.
That's optimistic.
That's what Roberto De Zerbi said he's going to try and do in the final 5 games, but that's just the mathematical context I'm adding there. So we've asked the guys to make their predictions from all of those teams there that are still within possibility, and Burnley, of course, could join Wolves in the Championship as soon as Wednesday night if they lose at home to Manchester City. We'll work our way down from top to bottom. You think then that effectively that Leeds United are already safe on 39 points, but let's have a look at their remaining games. They saw off Manchester United and Wolves in their last 2 matches, back-to-back victories, and now they have got Bournemouth away before they play a Burnley side who may well be relegated. And interestingly, they've still got to play their relegation rivals, Spurs away, and finishing West Ham on the final day. So this is what Jamie and Dean have predicted. You think, both of you think that they will lose at Bournemouth, but both of you thinking it doesn't matter at all, in effect, Jamie.
Yeah, I mean, looking at that, and we didn't know each other's. We're just seeing each other's for the first time. I think, listen, Bournemouth away is a tough game. Burnley at home's a game you'd expect almost every team in a division to win. But it's interesting when we go to Tottenham away. You think Leeds will go there and win? I just think it's almost a game Tottenham. Nothing else can happen except you know what I mean? It just with 2 or 3 games to go, it almost feels to me like Tottenham have to win that no matter what, by hook or by crook. So that's why I thought they might just edge that game.
But both of you have got them safe on 45, 46 points. But I'm keeping a close eye on the fact that Jamie thinks Spurs will win that head-to-head, and you both think that West Ham will win that head-to-head on the final day of the season as well. So Leeds United fans can relax and chill out because they're almost pushing for Europe with that with that points tally. As I said, that's still possible for Spurs as well. But what about Nottingham Forest? Awkward little game at Sunderland on Friday night, and then on paper it looks quite tough for Forest with Chelsea away, Newcastle home, Manchester United and then Bournemouth, who might well be pushing for, well, they could be pushing for Champions League football as well on that final day. Dean, you don't fancy them at Sunderland?
No, you'll be pleased to know. I mean, that is just a difficult place, and I think Sunderland have a point to prove after the latest result. But I just, with the Europa League, obviously, semi-final coming up as well, which has to take your mind as a player. These games are so important in your career that you can't help but think about them and maybe not protect yourself, but you don't want to be injured for these games. So I think that might have an effect, but I think at home when they need to get victories, I think they will.
But I suppose it depends how many of them get involved in this European semi-final, because the way that he's talked about it and the way that Mr. Marinakis has spoken about it as well, it's very much this is the priority, staying in the Premier League.
It is, but when you're that close to doing something, and you think of the history of the club in European football, and I said I think a week or so ago that is the priority, and I think that is more than sort of the trophy. But the more I think about it, and you see them getting through and who they got through against as well, a decent side in the last round. They're playing Aston Villa as well. There's something about playing an English team that almost means that it almost feels like you've got to go full strength even more because it's an English team. Sometimes a European game, you're away from home in Europe, your own fans don't know too much about the team. You can maybe lose, you don't know the players, but it's Aston Villa. It feels like there's something more riding on it in some ways because, you know, you play them so often in the Premier League. So I think they'd have to go for it. I think it'd be difficult to rest players, or they'll certainly rest less players than they did in the previous round. But listen, I think there's a decent gap from Sunderland's Friday night. That game would be on a Thursday night. So I think it's probably Chelsea, the Chelsea game, that would have a big effect in terms of the European game.
I think you've got Forest fans worried here, Dean, because you've got them losing 3 of the next 4.
Yes, but because I think the European game has to take your mind as a player. Supporters won't remember you staying up in years to come. They will remember if you go and win a European trophy or bring them a European pre and final. You know, I think those things, when you retire, all of a sudden, you know, get magnified a huge amount. But I hope players understand that.
I agree with what you're saying, but I almost think that if I'm the manager of Nottingham Forest, and we're thinking, OK, how many opportunities are we going to get in a semi-final of Europe, right? Does that not mean you'll just go all in on Sunderland as if, like, this is like, if we win this, and then you've still got almost a week till that first semi-final on the Thursday night, if they could win that, that would put them on what, Dave?
Yeah, 3 more points.
That would put them on 39, and you'd be thinking, you know what, they're not far away now.
That's one bit we missed off the graphic, what they actually got right now, 36 points. But, I mean, I think Dean thinks exactly the same, but he just thinks that Sunderland have got too much for Nottingham on the 24th. And should point out as well that if they do get to the European final, that will go between Manchester United and Bournemouth in that final week. So then you could have a European final, and then you might need to beat Bournemouth, according to your predictions there, to get over the line, depending on whether 39 would be enough. What about West Ham United then? This is where it gets a little bit more dicey, I think. Everton at home. European chasing, Brentford away from home. Then Arsenal still very much in the title race. Newcastle United, that's Newcastle's final home game of the season, and we know what a difficult little stretch they've been on recently. They want to finish on a high. Leeds United on the final day. So we have not got much agreement here, apart from you both think they will beat Leeds on the final day, potentially to get themselves over the line. But Jamie, you don't fancy them against Everton?
No, I just think David Moyes, he knows the club, he knows that stadium, he'll know most of the players. He'll go back there. He always... Listen, David Moyes just gets results. He went to Brentford last week, gets a little draw. I can just see them making it difficult. And, you know, David Moyes knows his way around the Premier League, as obviously Nuno does as well. But I just think going back to West Ham, knowing the club, knowing the setup, everything about it, I think be able to come away with a point.
So it's the way that you've got them, Dean, they're on 33 right now, so you've got them moving to 36 by beating Everton, but then only edging to 37 by the time we get into that final week of the season. So this could be really nail-biting stuff.
I think so. I thought it would go to the last day anyway for West Ham in particular. They're not easy fixtures. You know, the away games are difficult. Arsenal at home, of course, with them going for the title. But I always fancy West Ham almost against the better sides, where they can really sit in and counter-attack. And then if you've got to win, in my head, I kind of feel as if Leeds are going to get to the FA Cup final as well. So I've kind of factored that in.
OK, and that point you've got them against Arsenal might deny Arsenal the title as well, West Ham United. OK, to Spurs. They've both got them on over 40 points effectively, and we move on to Spurs, who occupy the 3rd relegation spot right now. Wolves away on Saturday, followed by Aston Villa away, Leeds at home, Chelsea away, Everton at home on the final day. It's not good news for Spurs fans. But Jamie, you've seen enough from 2 games under Roberto De Zerbi to think that they are at least going to get points in the next 3 games, but not to beat Wolves.
No, I just think that I've seen Wolves enough in the last few months where they've played at home against really good sides and got points. I know they're relegated now, and there's a really poor performance against Leeds, and they're relegated now. Does that have an effect on them? But we're talking the last time they won. What month was it? I mean, we're talking
December.
So December. They haven't won a Premier League game since December. I mean, it's unbelievable. So to think he's going to go to an away game and just win, I can't see them losing the game. And listen, they could nick it. Of course they could. But I've seen other teams go there and find it difficult. Wolves, the way they set up, they're not a great side.
You haven't seen enough, Dean. You think Spurs are going down?
Yes, I don't really see the character within the team, the mindset. Being a footballer and going in day to day is the best job ever. It's just the best. But going in, week out, when you're in the bottom three, isn't very nice. It just isn't. The players won't be used to it. I don't see enough character and leaders, togetherness. I just haven't seen it enough to realisation of where they are to get out of it.
Well, there you go. There's the final outcome. Both of them have got Spurs dropping to the Championship. How about that? With West Ham surviving and Forest and Leeds relatively comfortable. But we can guarantee Spurs that it doesn't go down to their predictions. It's actually what happens on the field that really matters. So there's a crumb of comfort. Dean, thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Pleasure.
Jamie, thank you very much as well. Without a win still in 2026, how do you think they dealt with that pressure on Saturday, Jamie?
There's almost like a little bit of a feel-good factor on the back of the performance, but right now, they're in a worse position right now than they were before the weekend started. But what you could say is there's no doubt De Zerbi's had an impact in terms of the performances, not in terms of the points-wise. 1 point out of 6 is not good, but they played really well at the weekend and should have got maybe a little bit more than 1 point out it. And the way he went about it, and we know the famous Tottenham motto, Dave, today.
To dare is to do.
Today
so
is to do.
Did they dare?
They did dare. And we're just going to look at all 4 goals, really, and how Tottenham went about it. So a lot's being made of the man-to-man press, high energy, I think the most running stats, high intensity that they've done all season. But when I talk about today is to do, they took chances because they have to win the game. So Porro here and Mitoma. Now, that's not the position normally a right-back would take up. In a position here, you'd normally see him here on the halfway line. But they're taking a chance because they've got to go and win the game, OK? So we're running on from here. They get Van Hekken in the corner flag. As I said, the press was fantastic from Spurs right throughout the game. And now Porro's off. And he leaves Mitoma in his slipstream here. Xavi Simons come into the team as well. We didn't see him in the last game, certainly starting away at Sunderland, and he's the one who gets the assist. So your right back comes in, scores a goal there. You don't normally see that. So, OK, they're being brave. Now, we mentioned, and this is really important to highlight here, we're basically just on half-time. The whistle's about to be blown. Now, remember the first game against Sunderland? We mentioned the role of a doggy. He was getting in different positions in midfield. He was doing overlaps. My problem when it's 1 minute before half-time is, forget what the plan is, just get to half-time at 1-0. It's about game state, not what De Zerbi wants. For me, a doggy, just go in there, go inside and get to half-time at 1-0. So it tells you the sort of the mindset of the players. They're being brave, they're being on the front foot, maybe taking chances. This is your centre-back, Danso.
Would the manager encourage that, Jamie? A chance to go 2-0?
No. I don't know where he's going. He's going on an overlap at 2-0. He's the right-sided centre-back in a back four. Now he's in midfield all over the place, chasing the ball. They can't get the ball back. Now, those mistakes don't lead to the Brighton goal, but I'm just trying to give you an understanding of what the mindset is. But players on a pitch have got to smell. We're 1 minute away from half-time, 1-0 up. We haven't been in this position very often in the Premier League this season. But Danso gets himself back in, but they can never get the ball back. You can understand they're a little bit nervous. Let's get to half-time, please get there. But this quality cross and this finish from Mitoma is fantastic. Very difficult to pick holes in it from a Tottenham point of view. It's just a brilliant goal. So it's 1-1 and Tottenham being brilliant with their press. But Herzl is a really good manager as well, and Brighton are doing really well. So he's come in and he's changed it tactically. So you're going to man-to-man markers. So we're going to put 6 players on the last line. So Tottenham have now got 6 players here. So 12 players all on the halfway line. Then you've got these players here. So again, it's man-to-man marking, but Brighton's players' positions starting have completely altered where the Tottenham players are, and then you've got a 2v2 here or a 3v2 with the goalkeeper. But to dare is to do again. We mentioned that again. Palhinha leaves his man there, takes a chance, goes sprinting out. He's part of the press that wins the ball back. Xavi Simons now gets on the ball. He's created one goal and he scores an absolute screamer. And in 2 goals, we've seen Tottenham taking chances, rightly so, because they were drawing at both stages and they need to go and win a game. You see this finish here.
Fabulous strike.
Yeah, brilliant. Listen, we haven't seen enough of that from him, that's fair to say, but he's starting to produce at a vital time. But again, we're talking about time. We're talking about 94th minute. Jed Spence, who's come on in the 76th minute. Now, he's done well. He's closed down. He can't pull out of this. He's got to keep going. He's unlucky, but Jed Spence here, I don't like this. You've got to sprint back. He's walking. He's a sub. He's only been on 15 minutes. Then you've got your 2 young midfield players. We highlighted them in the Sunderland game. They didn't start this game, but they understand football. They're clever, those 2 young lads. They know somebody's got to fill in at left back because our left back is now here. So they look to fill in. Now the situation you've got is here with Porro leaves his man, but Palhinha, your other midfield player, now ends up at right back. We're going to keep an eye on Jed Spence here. As it comes into Danso, everyone's talking about his mistake. He starts walking. He walks again because he thinks Danso's got the ball. Your 2 midfield players are filling in for him at left back, leave their slot in midfield, and that's where Rutter scores the goal. Brilliant finish on that left foot. An absolute body blow for them. You can see the reaction from them. But listen, there was a lot of positives to take from it for Tottenham in terms of how they played, how they went about it. He won't feel that right now. Tonight, especially when that goal went in right towards the end. But I can't stress enough how much a manager's idea is fine and great, but there's certain times when a player's got to take initiative himself and say, this is not a situation in terms of the first goal. Just stay in position, throw the ball down the line and get to half-time.
Would that performance, though, Dean, give you encouragement if you're in the Spurs camp that you can get out of it with 5 games to go?
I just think the playing staff they've got there are more used to that style than they are to sit in and try and defend. I just think they look much better, much more comfortable playing that way. But Jamie's right, it's the small details at this level. You know, if Spence gets back, it has a knock-on effect for those key moments. And also, for me, what's so important is you understand where you are. You know, you understand what those 3 points can mean and how it could have a knock-on effect to the other teams. And it's like they didn't understand that they're in a relegation battle.
We will have a deep dive into all this, the remaining games, what it means tonight's result after the game this evening, after West Ham have been to Selhurst Park. We'll get into this relegation story at around about 10:30 this evening, so do join us.
To chat to Jamie, and look, it's a huge game tonight. Let's start then by talking about this race to survive. Because psychologically, it feels like it could be huge tonight. I mentioned there, chatting to Jamie. I mean, West Ham, if they win, 4 points clear of Spurs.
Yeah, it's massive, and it's actually helped West Ham having the later game, whereas if results had gone the other way, it wouldn't. The pressure would be on. But they could afford to lose tonight and still be above the relegation zone. So, you know, it feels like the pressure's not off by any means. But for them going into the game, they're in good form. They're understanding each other. I feel like that they can go to a team that probably they'll feel, and from West Ham's point of view, they'll feel like Crystal Palace got nothing to play for. We're more desperate than they are. Everything bodes well for West Ham going into this game tonight, I think.
And Palace got a few doubts over some players as well, which could be interesting. One of the lines that came out from Roberto De Zerbi after that game was him saying that he thinks that Spurs can win all 5 of their remaining games. I mean, they've won 7 this season.
Yep.
Just 7 this season. Haven't won a game in 2026.
Yeah,
can you see this happening? Because it's hard to see where they can pick up wins at the moment, isn't it?
Well, I don't think they're going to win all of them, I've got to be honest. Listen, Jamie said, you know, when a team plays well and doesn't win, he worries for them. But I think for the Spurs fans, they've got to take a lot of hope from the way that team performed on the weekend, and just the fact they were so close, just a couple of mistakes and they would have won the game if they didn't do that. So it was a completely different performance from a Spurs point of view. I do think if they perform like they did against Brighton, they will pick up wins. That's the best I've seen them play, at least in this calendar year anyway. So there is positives in there, but it would be a massive blow for them if West Ham go and win tonight.
It was brutal on Saturday, though, wasn't it? The fact
yeah,
that they were so close to winning that
I felt for
game.
them so much. You could see like the shots that we're seeing. of the players after the game. It was heartbreaking for all of them, and the fans, the shots of the fans afterwards. They deserved the win, really. I think they was that good. There was a lot of players in that team that dug deep, and considering the form they've been in and all of the noise around them, they really did deserve a win. Performed really well, but they didn't get it, unfortunately. And that's football, and you've got to pick yourself back up and go again, and then go and play like that, and maybe even better against the next team and get your win.
Right, so a huge game at the bottom of the table tonight then. For more build-up, let's head back to Selhurst Park and rejoin our reporter Chris Reedy. Chris.
Yes, I'm delighted to say I'm joined by Alan Smith here at Selhurst Park before Crystal Palace against West Ham. Alan, with Spurs dropping points this weekend, huge opportunity for West Ham, right?
Yeah, most definitely. They would have looked at that game at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium and been very buoyed by the end result. So, but they're not a team at the moment that looks as if they need any encouragement. They're scoring goals, brilliant win against Wolves last time out, and they should be full of confidence to come here and give Palace some problems.
As a player, as a manager, what do you think's better? Because last week they played on the Friday, they got to kick-start it off. This week they have to wait, see all the results, see Leeds win, see Forest win, see Spurs drop points. What's better? Will it be a lot of pressure playing last for West Ham today?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, if different personalities, handle these situations in different ways. But I think in an ideal world, you'd probably want to get in there first and get the win, rather than being sat at home and watching the goals go in from your rivals. But Nuno is a very experienced manager, and he will know exactly how to handle the situation. And at the moment, it looks like his players do as well.
It feels harsh to ask you this before we know the result, but who do you see at the moment as favourite to get out of this, and who do you think is going to take that? Likely, because we think Wolves and Burnley will go. Who do you think is going to be that third one to go down?
Well, the table tells you Spurs and the points total. I did the game on Saturday when it was a much better performance. They're obviously gutted that they didn't get the win, but if they can take that forward, they're giving themselves a chance. We're going to get some strange results from here on in. We really are. When desperation comes into the situation, you look at a fixture, you think, well, they're not going to win that, or they are going to win it, and it goes the other way. At the moment, no, Spurs would be, the least fancied, I think.
Can you even fathom that Tottenham Hotspur? Because at the moment, people are saying the reason we think they might not go down, it kind of goes against the logic, because on form they are the third poorest team probably you'd say in the league, but it feels unimaginable that Tottenham could go down. I know it does. You're always expecting, you speak to people over the last few weeks and everybody seems to be saying no, Spurs will be okay, they'll be all right. But hopefully the players don't feel that. But you saw in the body language of the players on Saturday, that they realise the desperate situation they're in, and they're working really hard for De Zerbi. So they've obviously got to continue that now. But, it's the same across the board with Forest, Leeds. Leeds are safe, really, aren't they? And of course, West Ham. But, the points against Spurs at the moment. But we've seen it so often down the years that can change over the course of 2 or 3 games. We bring it back to the two teams playing here tonight. Crystal Palace, of course, will have eyes on that European semi-final. As a player, is it hard to not be distracted by that, or do you have to just keep playing yourself into form? Do you have to kind of keep the momentum going, or is it inevitable that they will be thinking about those huge games that are to come in Europe?
Well, Oliver Glasner will be saying, there are places to be won. We're all competing for that starting 11 against Shakhtar Donetsk. Listen, Palace have had very few changes. It's a very settled side. He knows his preferred 11, more or less. But things can change, in a game like today. If somebody can catch his eye, they've got a decent chance, you would imagine, of facing Shakhtar Donetsk in that semi-final. The thing is, of course, Palace are mid-table. They're not going to get dragged into anything. They're not going to qualify for Europe. So it is that little precarious position where you're hoping, Glasner will be hoping, that they can keep that intensity moving on to that European fixture.
Jared Bowen's always seemed to be the person who gets West Ham out of trouble. But in recent weeks, other people have seemed to step up. You see Mavropanos in both boxes been brilliant, getting a couple of goals against Wolves. Tati Castellanos as well, getting a couple. And Somerville's been playing well before his injury and coming back now as well. How important has it been for West Ham not just to rely on Bowen and have all those other individuals step up?
Yeah, I think absolutely vital. You know, West Ham have leaned on Jared Bowen for a long time, too long. You know, since the days of Mikel Antonio when he was leading the line and he wasn't getting much support apart from Bowen. But yeah, as you mentioned, those boys that have come in, Somerville's been great. The two strikers. Pablo yet to score in the league, but he's a creative force, and Castellanos got a couple, didn't he, against Wolves? So, yeah, I mean, to have more than one goal threat is vital for any team in any situation, really.
And can't let you go, Alan, without asking you about yesterday and Arsenal going up to...
Yeah.
I do have to, it's in my ear apparently, I do have to ask you.
Yeah.
So, Arsenal going up to Manchester.
Let's revisit the relegation scrap then. How have the weekend results affected the race for survival? Now, 4 teams, as we know, have been scrapping to avoid that one relegation place, with Wolves and Burnley almost certain to be playing Championship football next season. This is our Race for Survival tracker. We've got months of the season in the horizontal and points going up in the vertical as well. Now, you'll see Spurs line, that is the navy blue. That was tracking well ahead of their rivals for long stretches of this campaign. But look how they flatlined here at the start of February under Igor Tudor. They have really struggled since then, and that has allowed the gold line of Leeds to overtake them. It's also seen the red line of Nottingham Forest overtake them as well. And now, most recently, West Ham have overtaken that navy blue line of Spurs, meaning they are almost there at the end of the season. If they can potentially get a win tonight, it will do their chances of survival the world of good. Now, the safety line target, that is what we have set across here. We think the safety line is going to be around 38 points. And the eagle-eyed amongst you will know it's been a brilliant week for Leeds, and their gold line has now broken the 38-point barrier. So we think now that Leeds United are going to be safe. What a week for them. Wins over Manchester United and Wolves mean that they are now on 39 points. Nottingham Forest edging closer to that safety line as well. West Ham, if they win tonight, getting closer. That is when the pressure really cranks up on Spurs, potentially. And if we run that forward and look at the potential outcome at the end of the season, taking that predicted safety line at 38, this is how the bottom of the table is expected to look at the end of the season. West Ham and Spurs separated by a point as it stands. Might that change when we know the outcome of the game this evening? It's a massive night at Selhurst Park between Palace and West Ham.
No, you wanted to keep the good levels of performance. So how did you see tonight in this sense?
I think we perform well. Of course, we always expect for the best. I think we were organized, we were compact, we defend very well. Tough match. Palace is always very hard here at Selhurst Park. In our offensive process, the combinations didn't quite go. The final pass, the final touch. Even though we had a couple of good chances, but you know, and the game was very balanced. Both teams very, very intense on the game.
Yeah, we all know that Palace has a very established way of playing. We know the shape and the patterns. What makes it? What is it about their execution that makes it so hard to always face them?
It's a tough shape to play against, and they've been doing with Oliver for a long time now, and bring them a lot of success. Just the last season and this season and all the achievements that they made. It's very hard because they are good players, and the gaps, you cannot find the gaps, and they have a very, very threatening counter-attack. So you always have to keep the balance. The wings with Mitchell and Munoz all give me the width, so there's a lot of details. But I think we were really good in terms of our organization. We were solid.
The performance was there. When you see the point and you look at the table, does it feel like a good point, or does it have a little bit of frustration with the missed opportunity?
No, we have to realize how hard it is the match, and it's not doing counts, not measuring the points. It's focused on our task, knowing that we have to improve. And Saturday we go again. It's going to be a fight till the end.
When you see the levels of work rate that you have on the team, does it give you confidence that you will keep pushing and you will achieve what you want?
No, that's for sure. We are committed. We know that we have a mission in our hands. We are a big club, and the players are being committed, working very hard, trying to achieve the best levels of performance. For example, today defensively, like I said, I think we were spot on. Offensively, we could we could get a couple of chances, couple of shots, good saves from Dean also. On that point, there's no arguing about that. Commitment all the way.
Do you feel like not being inside the relegation zone, being outside, gives you a little bit more freedom to play, or it takes a little bit of the weight when you guys are playing?
Natalie, the situation doesn't change. We know that we have to do better. We know that we have to play and perform. What makes us realize it's going to be the fight till the end. So let's not think about anything else. That improvement, commitment, and play.
And also keeping in perspective that you only depend on yourselves.
Yeah, in this moment, but just look at the table of the league. It's very tight all over the place. It's been a season that all the teams are very hard to compete against.
And what do you expect this point to do to the team in these final games?
We have a week to work. We have a week to work and focus on the next one. This is over. Let's analyze. Let's forget about what happened here, the things that we didn't do so best, because for sure it's going to happen on Saturday.
Thank you,
Natalie.
Still smiling and staying calm, as we said about Nuno before the game. Is the air just a little easier to breathe in their position right now? You can't forget they've been in that bottom three for a big chunk of the season.
Yeah, the sharper his beard is, I think the happier he seems to be. I think, look, he's basing the side on commitment, as he said, organisation, being solid, being hard to beat, knowing he's now got players that can hurt the opposition on the counter-attack. Tonight was always going to be difficult because they were playing a team that wants to play the same way that they do. So he'll be, I think secretly, he'll be really pleased with the performance again, building the sort of togetherness with that performance leading into the end of the season.
Yeah, and he'll be delighted with another clean sheet as well. Let's be clear about that. Do you think it was quite smart, Jamie, for him? I mean, with 10, 15 minutes to go and it felt like the game was in the balance, that he almost said to his team, let's just make sure we get a point here. Let's not go chasing and doing anything silly.
It felt like one of those games, and sometimes supporters might be sat at home, you're a West Ham supporter, and you're thinking, oh, go for it. But sometimes your team aren't playing well enough. And you actually, what's the strength of our team tonight? So when you listen to his interview there, he said he just couldn't quite get the sort of connections going forward, the interplay between the front four, you did the analysis before the game. And I think sometimes as a manager, if they were playing well, you think, no, we've got to go for this. We've got to take the chance because we fancy ourselves to go and get the goal. Once they weren't having those connections, the back four were playing well, the two centre-backs, you just got to go, you know what? Hopefully we can nick it. Make sure we don't concede a goal. And sometimes you just got to make that judgment as a manager. I think that was probably the case the longer the game went on.
Also, I think he's responded to Crystal Palace, bringing on Mateta, Sarr, Kamada, strengthening their team, really, with those changes. And I think he's gone, I'm not sure we're ready to sort of take that on and wanted that point.
Yeah. 2 points clear of the bottom three now. Mateus Fernandes got the vote from Alan Smith as the player of the match. What about the Finalysis voters? Who did they opt for? Well, actually, he was also West Ham's highest rated player of the evening, but not the player of the match, because that vote went to JD Canvo, 81.9, his rating this evening. That was maybe they voted before his shot. What did you think of that? Did you like that shot, Jamie?
Oh, I'm not a fan of centre-backs having shots from 30 yards. I think if I was a manager, that would be a club fine.
And interestingly, the reaction from Oliver Glasner wasn't great either, but here he is now with Natalie.